let's get this show on the road. All right, welcome to the third meeting of the Book Chat Club. I'm always just a little bit running late, but I try. I try. I am so happy for everyone to be here. I want to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kim. I host the Angry Soccer Mom YouTube channel, a Facebook page, and a number of other platforms. Plus, I do Wednesday night live shows and free streaming on Sunday, just to say hello. Tonight's book club is going to be geared towards white folks who want to learn more about systemic racism and ultimately find their voice so they can use their white privilege to support equity in America. Hello, Tinoch. Hello, welcome, welcome. I want to introduce my panel. Today, I have one person I'm thrilled to have, and I want to introduce her. This is T. Welcome, T. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
That's T, and she is wonderful. She's been on, this is the third time she's been on, and she is just a wonderful woman, and I'm thrilled to have her. I will do a quick summary. Well, maybe not so quick. Today's format's going to be a little bit different because we have T and myself, and I will be able to respond. T and I will definitely be able to respond to any questions that people write up on the subject matter. Hi, Mr. FS Black, welcome. And any comments you have, that will be great. Instead of me doing the entire summary and then T and I talking, we're gonna just chat through the summary. So it's gonna be a little different format. Bear with me, and I'll do one more quick introduction and we are ready to rock and roll. Thank you so much for people who are here watching. So tonight's going to be very interactive because there's T, me, and you all. So one thing I want to tell for white folks listening and watching, please remember that when a Black, Brown, African-American, or Indigenous person shares their wisdom with us, their life experiences regarding racism, it is a gift of enlightenment. And what I mean by that is, as privileged people, people who live in this culture of white supremacy, they have no obligation to educate us. It is a gift for them to share with us their life wisdom, their experiences, and their feelings, because they have to live with the overwhelming burden. We can all pretend we don't even know what's going on. So that being said, whether it's a person on my panel or whether it's a person who is writing in, please be really respectful. This is their wisdom and their reality. It's real. Okay. Robert, welcome. Tinoch, could you talk about the channel? I'm new here. I'm Mexican. I think racism is degrading and horrible to humanity. Yes. I will definitely, I'll go really fast and then we'll get started. Thank you so much for being here. This right now, you're on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is a channel that I do. Normally I do videos and I post news from America, the United States, and all over the place. And what the subject matter is always anti-racism, anti-bigotry, corruption, and inequality in America and throughout the world, but it's mostly US focused. And tonight, what you're at right now is a book club, but you don't have to read the book. That's the cool part about the book club. You don't have to read the book because I'm going to summarize it as we go. We're on the second part of chapter 2. And normally we have 2 other panel members, but one of them is actually getting his master's degree and he's doing his thesis. It's due tomorrow. So I wrote to him and I figured, it might be really, really stressful for him. So, but normally he is here and he's been wonderful. He's added great things. So it's T and I and the audience today. And then of course, people who look on, this is formal, but informal. I want to know what you think. And Tina and I are just going to chat right through this. So great questions. And I'll say hi to people who jump in. And on that lovely note, please feel free to make comments. And as they apply, I will read them. And, or if they're to T, then she will comment. I'll read them to her. So let's get started. Oh, cool. Thanks. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Robert, I was on free streaming today. He's saying what's happening in Georgia. It's immoral. It's ridiculous. Welcome, Pat. Absolutely. And you know what? We talked about that in my free stream today. That was just a couple hours ago. Actually, Colonel Cromlin came on and talked about that extensively. Robert, if you want to check that out, it's online right now. It's recorded, but he talked extensively about that. And yeah, we are very, very not happy about this. So we're at the book club and we're on the second part of chapter 2, and I'm going to summarize and jump right in on anything you have to say about the topic of discussion. Some of it's theoretical, some of it's pretty obvious and not theoretical at all. It's really, really real, really real. I don't know how else to put it. So on that note, I will get started. This might be a little shorter show than usual. Chapter 2, the second part of chapter 2 in the book, White Fragility, Why It Is So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. We're on the third meeting and the second part of chapter 2, because there's so much in this book. It's amazing. So here's the summary and jump on in. Jump right in and I will answer anything on the subject matter. Wednesday, Robert, we will be talking extensively about that on Wednesday, for sure. All right, of course, you know I have lots to say. So the second part, welcome Nails and Glitter. The second part of chapter 2, I'm going to do a review. And Nails and Glitter, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but we're going to, because I have T and myself and my viewers and my friends, we are going to just talk as we go. So go ahead and post whatever you want to do, and T's going to jump in whenever she feels like it. First of all, white folks have historically looked at race as a burden on Black people, not us, the white people. American culture was created and is currently based on the human construct of supremacy. Give me 1 second. Many, where am I? Where am I? Okay. 1 second. Almost there. There's always something. Okay. There I am. Things scroll on me, I swear. It's not me. It's me. Okay. We talked about whiteness as a legal status. Hi, Just News. Welcome. As we talked about last Sunday, by defining whiteness as a legal status with a set of, a set definition, an aspect of identity is converted into what one is entitled to regarding benefits, property, and other privileges. Remember, whiteness for a very long time was defined legally. That's why we call the police the gatekeepers of racism, because they're the ones you went to when somebody who wasn't white, by definition, did something wrong. So what do you know? And they also started off with a horrific history of being slave patrols. So, and that's not from the book, that's from me. The premise of whiteness overall comes from the definition of whites as the normal standard for people, and people of color as the deviation from the norm. Whiteness is not acknowledged by white people, yet a white reference point is assumed to be universal, at least according to us white people. So that's a kind of a psychological crazy thing. An example of this is outlined clearly when people consider racism a Black problem, when it actually is very much a white person's problem. You see, like I always say, and this is off the cuff here, We don't have a Black person problem in America. We have a white person problem. But white supremacy twists it to make us white folks grow up believing that we're just the norm. We didn't do anything, and propaganda and whatnot. Technic says, Tanach, I've never been to the United States, but I used to read about how African Americans are degraded by the racist police. What do you think? Sorry for my bad English. It's my first time writing. You're doing great, by the way. Oh, you're from Tijuana? You're doing great. I'm a second language English teacher, so I think you're doing very well. Yes, we have a special form of racism that is all our own, and sadly, we spread it to the world, and that's kind of what we're talking about. So, our culture makes it so that whiteness is never spoken of by white people. We consider ourselves just to be the norm. Everyone else is the other. And she helps explain, this book is almost like the preschool for if you're white and you want to, or if you want to understand systemic racism in America and the incredibly strong influence it has on everything. And this is a book for white people so that they can try to understand why we find it incredibly hard to even think of ourselves as white, let alone talk about racism in America and use our privilege to actually try to make a difference and support, not to lead, not to be the hero, but just to act human. So it's a really interesting, very psychological, not in a good way. I don't know, the idea that racism in the US can operate outside of white people as a Black issue. It's reinforced through celebrations such as Black History Month, Black History Month, in which we study Black history completely separate from other history, which is actually ludicrous. The idea that racism in the US can operate outside of white people is reinforced through the celebrations of things such as Black History Month, where we study the Civil War and the Civil Rights era as if they occurred separately from our history, which is white history. I'm saying that, yes, I'm being sarcastic. So it's kind of Tej, what do you think? A lot of people that I know think that will know that racism is truly dismantled once there is no Black History Month, because every month is Black history, because Black people have always been here. Do you have anything to, and then some people, obviously, we're not quite there yet. What do you think, T?
Right.
Just personally.
Well, you were talking, I was writing because I had something that came to me.
Go for it.
That's fine. The thing that people need to realize is that, Black people did not create racism. Therefore, Black people should not be responsible for dismantling it. It is a white problem. It all started with white people. Even everything has to do with color with white people. And it's silly. It really is, because it just is not, it doesn't make sense to wake up every day and be concerned about somebody's color, and white people get really defensive because they always think that we are specifically targeting them individually. No, I'm not talking about you,
Right. It's a system. It's a system.
Right. It's like, if the shoe fits, instead of getting defensive, just listen. It's a cultural problem that you all need to figure out how to change, because we're not doing it. We're just being Black, and we get targeted, unfairly for the color of our skin, because white people created this whole narrative that Black people are somehow inferior and criminals and this and that. And, unfortunately, it has been passed down in white families, whether it's spoken or unspoken. I'm not saying that there are families that said, "Hey, you need to hate Black people." That's not how it goes. That's not how racism is. You don't. Right. That might be overt stuff that people would readily notice, but typical racism is just an unspoken thing. It's mannerisms. You know, what's that word? I can't think of the word. Implicit biases. It's just the way that you act toward another human being who is different from you because of the color of their skin, and you don't even always necessarily know you're doing it because it's just a part of your culture. It's just a part of what you've been taught. Just like babies and children, you wonder why, I work with young children, and you wonder why, how do they just automatically know certain things? And they haven't, you feel like, well, I haven't said. The parents like, well, I haven't said it. It's because they've been exposed to something, or somehow it's an unspoken thing that's been taught to them. Human beings, we're very intelligent creatures. We can pick up on little subtle cues, and people don't realize that. That's the part of racism, in my opinion, that a lot of white people miss. It's not the whole, oh, well, I didn't walk around calling people the N-word. I mean, I've never been called that. Not to say that that's normal, but I'm just saying that's not really that's the example that people bring up. It's like, it's ignorant to say that. It's like, that's not racism. And I always go back to, we got to define what racism actually is.
It's a wrong definition, right?
Right. Once we get to that, then we can go on and start really helping people to understand why we are feeling this way, why we keep having to fight for this and fight for that. But it's just a lack of understanding of what racism actually is, and that's the hard, that's the hurdle that we're trying to get over. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is. It's like you just hit a bump, you bring up, well, white people this, and that's it,
And that's what this book's all about. That's what this book is trying to explain to us, why we're so defensive. And part of it is just what you said, T, is that like we talked a little bit about this last time, the definition that most white folks have, that's not who they are. So it doesn't concern them. They're not like that. They're not, into the Ku Klux Klan. They're not.
Right.
They're not, lighting swastikas on fire. They're not wearing hoods. So that's not them. But also, that's not what racism we're talking about. That's antiquated, long ago.
And most people, I'll give you an example. Most people who are around me who may be white, whether it's coworkers who, we have a decent relationship with, I have a decent relationship with, who might, care about me, they still can be racist. That doesn't mean that this doesn't take away the fact that they care about me. It's just that they don't understand what they're doing. A lot of people don't. I had one lady, and she actually hired me, and I'm friends with her daughter. And one day we were talking about how the building was getting redone, and she said, "Oh, it's so nice. It's just like the plantation." And I was just like, what? I didn't even say anything. She just totally didn't even get it went totally, it would have been gone over her head. That is how racist she is, but she doesn't know it, and she'll talk to me like, how she loves me, and I'm like her daughter and all that stuff. But in the out of the other side of her mouth, she'll say that. That's racism. Look at Brian Kemp. You know, I mean, and he's a little bit more overt, honestly,
Overtly.
but they act, yeah, he's a little more overt. I mean, he still tries to pretend like, oh, I'm doing nothing wrong. How could I, you know, but that's
You know,
typical white people. They don't run around saying, "Hey, I hate you because you're black." That's not that's not racism. You know, it's like the deep embedded stuff that they don't realize. Like, you know, that's actually hurting me because you don't realize that in this society, this is how we're treated. Like plantation to me is offensive. Don't say that to me. But she never even thought once. She didn't even think twice about it. It was just like I just kind of kept going. I was like, she would never even get it. Never mind. I'm not,
yeah,
you
and
know.
see, one of the things that I always like to instill with white folks is that are new to this the whole systemic racism and the culture, the incredibly strong, powerful culture of white supremacy, especially in the U.S., is simply that intent does not matter. Okay, it doesn't matter if you meant it or not; it's still racist. And so, people who are decent people can be racist. Okay, now overtly racist, probably not, but racist nevertheless, and hurtful to people who care about Black, Brown, Indigenous people, people of mixed heritage, African Americans, etc., and white people as well who care about them. It's like devastating. It's hurtful. It's racist. It doesn't mean necessarily you're a horrible person. It means you have got
Right.
zero introspection and you are not very aware of the culture that is American culture. So, yeah, it's a toughie.
Right.
Did you want to add anything? Because I can keep going. I have some good examples. Should I?
You can keep going.
Okay.
Keep
Well,
going.
okay. Jump right in whenever you feel like it. Real quick. Tanuk has said it's true what you say about privileges. Here in Mexico, it's more white than other Mexicans. They use, they make fun of and they use racial, epithets to brown people. But racism exists in every culture. And you know what? Interestingly, that's probably very true. People do try to make, I guess I call it an order of operation of status. Sometimes it's economic, sometimes it's based on racial lines, sometimes it's both. Privilege, there are hundreds of types of privilege, but in nations that have been colonized, it is most prevalent. And as the United States, as one of the leaders, I'm not sure if we still are, we have definitely significantly added to racism all around the world. We've set an example of it. A country who is supposed to be, a nation that's always trying to better itself, become a more perfect, create a more perfect nation. Well, I question how we are doing that with regard to, we're really not doing so great with regards to systemic racism. It's still here, and the statistics alone speak volumes. And that's what this book's about. The book is trying to explain to us why white folks in America have such fear and anxiety about talking about racism. In fact, we get scared if we hear the word white. So here's an example she gives in the book, which I absolutely relate to. It used to make it a link. Tell me more, Neil. Wait, I'm not sure what you're saying, Nails and Glitter, and I want to know because Nails and Glitter knows this book inside out. This one example of just how we twist things to culturally make it so that Black people are the problem. Listen to this and tell me if you understand. There's some nuance in this, so listen carefully. The story of Jackie Robinson is a classic example from the book that tells how Whiteness obscures racism by rendering it invisible. Let me explain. Robinson is celebrated as generally as the first African American to break the color line and play in Major League Baseball. And that sounds great. Well, wow, what an amazing man. But listen to this breakdown of it and tell me if you think it sounds amazing. And, while Robinson obviously was an amazing baseball player, nobody's doubting that. The storyline depicts him as racially special. White people learned that he was so good, they had to let him play. Okay, that's generally how we are taught. And if it's not how we're taught the story, it's how we come to believe and think of the story. And he was so racially special as a Black man who broke the color line himself. It implies that he finally had what it took to play with the white people, as if none before him were, they just weren't strong enough or good enough to compete at that level. In other words, whites believed that finally someone who was Black could finally cut it with the best white people. In other words, it's their own problem. They just weren't up for the challenge. And there's little ways that we make it seem like, well, it's not us, it's them, despite the barbaric history of don't even get me started. But what if instead the story went like this? And this is what Robin DiAngelo was saying. Jackie Robinson, the first Black man whites allowed to play in Major League Baseball. This changes the focus to be more truthful than it was, that racist whites would not allow somebody who was absolutely good enough, if not better than good enough, because we wouldn't let them. White folks wouldn't let someone who was amazing play. That's more truthful, what she's trying to say. And it's not to say, oh, yay, we white people saved the day by letting him, because there's a lot of reasons why we let him, and they're not all that nice, okay? Here's the thing. The first version, okay, this whole change, it's just more honest, really. This first version, she says, makes a critical distinction because it never mattered how fantastic Robinson was. He simply wasn't allowed to play in the major leagues because whites decided they wouldn't allow it. It didn't matter if he was the best player ever to exist on the planet. We weren't going to let him. And in other words, there were likely thousands and thousands of Black people who were good enough to play in the major leagues. But whites were so freaking racist, we wouldn't let them. And that's on us. Do you see how I switched that around? That's not, oh, finally some Black guy actually got good enough. No. There were thousands and thousands that were good enough. We forbade it. Our racism was so strong, we forbade it. That's putting it back on white people. Not to give credit to white people, but there's another part of this, and I really had to read this a bunch of times. Narratives of racial exceptionality, he was just so good they had to let him, obscure the reality of ongoing institutional white control. And it reinforces the ideologies that individualism, everyone has just as good a chance, and meritocracy, which basically, if everyone just works really hard, the best people will rise to the top. Well, not with systems in place like systemic racism. These differences in thinking may seem subtle, but these nuances are what holds racism in place. Blaming Black people, making it a Black person's problem. Well, it's them. When it really is, we have a white person problem in America. We're choosing to exclude people based on how active the melanin in their skin is. That's just wrong. That's just freaking weird.
Right. It's like, who died and made white people the standard? Like, where's that coming from?
Right, we did. It's like people get to choose the standard, and like, why? The other part, and I want to hear, this is the last part of this, and this thing I relate to. we make the laws about who gets to be white and what white people get to do. Yeah, that's not a system, is it? Oh, yes, it is. But here's the catch. When I first read this about white folks not letting them, I'm like, oh my gosh, they are not going there, saying, oh, we let them, we're heroes. No. They do, this kind of thought, by thinking of exceptionalism and meritocracy, does a disservice to current white folks today. And it does so by obscuring white allies who behind the scenes worked, if you saw the story of Jackie Robinson, worked very hard with many Black people to open up the field so that African-American players would be involved. And this is not brought up to say that whites deserve credit, but it's to say why it's mentioned. Understanding the history of allies in gaining human rights and equity could serve as a much needed role model to all whites. But we have to acknowledge that these allies also had very much economic incentive. But when I don't know if you relate to this, T, but I was brought up believing exactly from society, not my parents, that, well, Jackie Robinson was just so good, they finally had to let him in. And not that a small group, there's always been a small group who understood what it means to be human. And part of that subset of the group probably did it for economic purposes. I'm not saying they're saints, but there were always white people who tried to, for one reason or another, maybe great intentions, I don't know. But nowadays, a lot of white folks I work with, T, they think that like what they're doing is amazing. It's never been done before, by actually trying to learn about systemic racism and actually stand up for equity and stand up for the rights of our brothers and sisters who are brown, Black, Indigenous, and African-American. And no, there's always been somebody doing this forever and always, deciding to act like a human. But a lot of us think, well, it happened during the civil rights era and then now. No.
Right. Do people not see that the scales are tipped? It's not balanced. Everything from the beginning, since we've gotten here, has been, white people being the default. Okay. And we've had to kind of try to say, hey, we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're humans too. Acknowledge our humanity. Okay. And so, for example, when white people talk about the whole Black History Month or BET channel or whatever, and they want to get all up in arms about that, it's like, you guys have it. You are the default culture.
Every month is White History Month.
We're just saying, hey, can we get a little piece? I mean, we're here too. We didn't really ask for y'all to bring our ancestors over here and to create this big old mess. But, doggone it, we're here. And it's not just all about you. You're not the only people on this earth that need to be celebrated. There are tons of other people. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know what? These people over here, they deserve, some recognition. And look, if it was always about all people included, if that's the answer you're going to give me, then it should have been that from the beginning. It's not. Everyone's not included. That's why we have to try to work hard and
white folks need to themselves.
But yeah, we can't. We have to fight for everything because we're not included. Everything that's American and patriotic doesn't include us. We have to insert ourselves in and just say, okay, I guess I'll go along with it, even though it really is not for me. I mean, that's not fair.
Right.
So that's what people don't understand. It's like, it's always been unbalanced. There's no balance. If you're white, you're at the top. If you're black, you're at the bottom. That's just how it is. And the ones at the top are not really trying to make it fair for everyone. They just want to stay there and say, forget about, the rest of y'all. Y'all just have to come. You guys have to come up to us,
Right.
as if they're the ones that are the standard.
Yeah.
And it's not fair and it's not right. It's ignorant.
It's not American, according to, liberty and justice for all. And, people think this is all by chance a lot of times, at least white folks do. And it's not by chance. And I probably said this probably 15 or 20 times in my live shows and videos, but I'll say it again. Lyndon B. Johnson, racist, sure. Had some serious wisdom, absolutely. He's quoted as saying this, and it's antiquated and it's rude as hell, but it's really true. White folks have been fooled generation after generation. Lyndon B. Johnson once said, and this is not from the book, this is just me going off on a tangent, but it all connects. If you convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. And I gotta say, the most modern thought on the topic agrees 100%. The experts in the field say, oh yeah, the wealthiest elites benefit significantly from racism. They benefit significantly from the white masses blaming Black people for everything, blaming brown people for everything. Because when we're blaming brown people and Black people and African Americans and Indigenous people, we're not seeing what's really going on economically in America. And that is the wealthiest elites who started our nation are getting richer and richer, and everyone else is getting poorer. And the haves are having and the have-nots are getting more nothing. And I'll tell you, we have the biggest divide right now, income-wise. We have, oh my gosh, it's more than ever. Then, they say we're in the twilight of our democracy. It's because of greed. So should I keep going, T, or did you want to kind of like jumped in there?
The only thing I was thinking that popped in my head was, and you have idiots out there who are actually voting these racist clowns in who really don't care about them. And just so they can feel like they're above someone. That is the most idiotic thing. They don't care about you. They don't care about your interests. It's the whole Obamacare thing. The majority of these folks can't even afford health care themselves. And you're voting in this idiot who's not going to look out for you. I mean,
we're indoctrinated.
Want to be all because you want something to say that you're above somebody. That is so stupid to me.
Well, it is really, really ridiculous. It's very low level thinking. It's not using your critical thinking skills, because the bottom line is racism is not good for the average white person either.
Right. That's just like, it does not benefit you to be racist.
It doesn't. Yet here we are. What does that say about us? We love our racism so much, we'll go against our own best interest to the point of near death. I'll give an example, just so we can keep our racism alive. Okay. Think about Trump. Hate to do it, but the way he handled COVID. Do you know how many white people have died and had relatives die? Much more than Black people, of course. Of course, not in the highest percentages based on the population numbers, but way more white people have perished from this. But you know what? We white folks, we were okay with it, because when we found out, and when Trump and his Klan followers found out that it was impacting people of color, Black people, brown people, African-American people, Indigenous people, his own son, I think it was his son-in-law, said on tape that he pretty much stopped doing anything about it. So we have some comments. We will go against our own best interest to the point of death. That's how much racism is in our culture. It's insane. Truly, it's insane. Tanuk from Mexico, I think to create a perfect union, it's very hard work. And the US needs to raise American children with morals very open to any other race, in peace with Asian people, African American people, Latinos, etc. Absolutely. And a lot of really good folks believe this, but not enough, unfortunately.
Right.
Not
right.
enough.
No.
Even if half of us did, still not enough.
It's really sad. I mean, that really shows you a lot about where we are as a country, that it's a small percentage of people that actually, believe that.
Yeah, part of the problem is we are so uneducated. And this book tells us so much about why we're indoctrinated into white supremacy. But it doesn't mean just because you're born into it, you just have to do nothing, which upholds it. It doesn't mean just because you didn't start it, just because you didn't build the system, doesn't mean you're born into it and you ignore it. It's not good for us. And as you can see, with the struggles so many white folks are having now, welcome to the club, the economic club, when you're oppressed by the wealthiest elites. Trump is a wealthy elite. Whether he's wealthy or perceived wealthy, it doesn't matter. He is one of them. And we have more comments. Garrick, when it comes to racism, these elites also manipulate other non-whites to look down upon African Americans too. Absolutely. And Garrick, exactly. For example, Asian Americans and African Americans in some areas of the country have had horrific problems with one another. And you know what the wealthiest elites say? Thank you very much. And you know what I say personally? This is not from the book. I say, nice going, white people. This is what we've done. I blame us. Okay. I don't blame you personally. No, I don't blame me personally, but I blame as a collective people, which we do not like to think about. I blame us because we have set the example of disgusting racism systemically, personally, and in every area of life. And we've set the standard, and we're not the only ones indoctrinated into it. You know, there's colorism, there's, oh my God, there's just so much going on. But we have, let me see, more comments, and jump right in anytime, T. I'm just blabbing away, as I usually do. Ezio, whoa, let me just find. Ezio, did you guys know that New York PD ended qualified immunity? Yes, I did. Did you know? You knew that, T, right? T's in Georgia, but hope this goes nationwide. Me too.
What? I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry. New York Police Department. Well, they're ending qualified immunity for police. I believe is it New York PD or is it the city? I read it a while ago, but I don't know which. But I'll tell you. Oh, Tanak, you have to go. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll read what you put. Okay, and definitely subscribe to the channel and follow everything, and we'll be in touch. Thanks for being here. That was really cool. He's from Mexico, and he jumped right in. He's just saying he has to go, but it was awesome to have you, and your English is really good. I think it's really good. But yeah. So Iseo, yes, I read about that. I hope the entire nation follows suit. We were talking about it earlier. T, were you around then? Saying like,
I think I heard. I know what you're talking about.
Qualified immunity of NYPD. Okay, New York Police Department. Because that is. Thank you, Isaiah, for clarifying that. I thought it was just the city, but hey, that's an awesome start. Of all the people that should not have qualified immunity, are people who don't have their racism in check, don't have the education and the de-escalation training that they need, do not understand cultural competence in general, are mostly trained to shoot, and are given a gun with total impunity. What a joke. It's basically, here, have a gun, be a free criminal. And I'm sorry, I know there are good police, but the bottom line is It's out in the open. Everybody knows about the blue line. Everybody gets it. And not all police stations, police departments do that. But this has been going on for centuries. They started as slave patrols, and the culture really has not, you know, gone to where it should be with regards to acting human. It really is not good. It's one of the most known corrupt organizations in the entire country. Yet here we are. Immunity? Are you kidding me? Not good.
Wow.
So basically, he says, Isaiah says, basically cops can't get away with shit in New York anymore. Yeah, well, you know, this kind of cultural shift is huge, huge. Also, the Supreme Court most recently said that there, I believe, I didn't read it, but I read about it and heard about it, that the people are going to be allowed to sue personally police people and things like that. And I don't quote me because I really don't know much about it, but I'll tell you, things might be slowly changing, but a lot of this stuff is just a little, you know, here, have a crumb. We have to get people to understand so it spreads like wildfire.
Yes.
The whole immunity thing is laughable to me. It's just beyond obnoxiously racist, and the statistics all speak to that being the truth. So, this is one of the parts. I'll go back to the book for a minute, and T, don't be shy because I get really riled up and I don't shut up. Garrick, remember that Derek Chauvin is on trial, and we saw with the Mark Furman in media whitewashed his racism and brutality and played the race card with these buzzwords enabling Americans to deflect and deny racism. And that's what we do. We saw a man snuff the life out of another human being before our very eyes with his hand in his pocket and his smug little look, while people on the side begged, white and black and brown, begged for him to stop. This man is going to be put in front of a jury, you know, maybe not him personally, he might not testify, I don't know. But nevertheless, one would expect, if not this case, you know, to be that one of the 1% of all cases that ever get anything punitive happen for police brutality, murder, misconduct, etc. All I can say is, T, if this case isn't one of them, then none of them are. I don't know the details, but I know what I saw. I saw a man crying for his mother as he was murdered in front of us. I don't care if he was on drugs. I don't care. I don't care what happened before the cameras started rolling. I don't care. The man snuffed his fucking life out. I'm just saying.
That cop knew what he was doing, and we all know that.
Absolutely.
He knew what he was doing.
And
you know,
if he gets away with it, I mean, he got away with it. I'm sorry, he got away with it. It's, you know.
It's mind blowing. I mean, even reminds me of the recent thing here in Georgia regarding the arrest of the representative there. I mean, it's like, really? Where were you guys when all those people went down to that Capitol with the intent to kill,
to murder?
It wasn't a question.
They wrote about it.
They admitted it. Okay, on their intent to kill, and they did nothing. Maybe not. You know, there were some. I'm sure. You know, there were a sprinkle of good cops helping out at the Capitol. But other than that, the consensus was nothing was really done. You know, and
they let him in and let him out. I thought they were going to arrest him on the way out, but they didn't.
Yeah, you know, it's just, and then this one little woman, I mean, she probably didn't weigh more than 130, 140 pounds. One little person knocking on the door
to question
the governor. I feel like she has every right to do so, you know.
He's
And
arrested.
he's sitting there looking like him and the rest of them, a bunch of Klansmen in there hiding, signing a piece of paper, knowing good and well that that is going to really hurt mostly people of color.
Yep, Jim Crow 2.0.
To sit there, I mean, and I know people have talked about it over and over again. I know I'm just
And we
repeating
should.
the same thing, but it's just like, come on, you don't see,
Anyone.
people don't see this. They go and then they go out of here. Well, what about such and such? I'm like, we're not talking about that. Once again, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? They always go back talking about something that has nothing to do with what the current situation is. We every time we bring up, well, we were kind of unfairly treated in this situation. Look, that they turn a blind eye, yet
This is
blatantly,
unbelievable what's happening in Georgia. You're in Georgia, right?
correct.
I mean, this
And
is insane what's
I'm
happening.
I'm so sick of this governor. I'm just so,
Oh, he's a
it just
sicko.
want to throw up.
He
It's just
sat there as a black representative was outside the door trying to question. He snuck and signed in front of his clan, his fellow older white males who stood around like freaking clan while he signed in private with a picture of a giant plantation in the back. I mean, I couldn't have set that up to be more racist if I tried. It was pure white supremacy. And what he signed was something that is so fraudulent and corrupt and dishonest. It was signed under the guise of a lie. This was, according to the person in charge of our federal government, keeping it safe, our election was the most secure election in the history of the United States. Yet this man is so racist, he has the gall to sneak and pass this oppressive Jim Crow 2.0 legislation to make it harder and harder and harder for mostly Black people and brown people and indigenous people in Georgia to not just to get the chance to vote, just the chance to vote, to be able to do it. Okay. Because they know very well that when voters turn out, who are non-white voters turn out, they more often than not end up skewing towards the Democrats. I mean,
and
they can't win.
the thing is that he knows that most people in the state are really going to vote Democrat. And the only reason, I mean, it's voter suppression. The only reason that they've been winning for so long is because of voter suppression. And not just that, but also a lot of Black people have not been moved, motivated. I wouldn't say educated. Well, yeah, educated enough about the process to realize how how vitally important we are to this whole process. So now, the wonderful thing about this is that Stacey Abrams and those folks have really gotten a lot of Black folks' attention. It's like, see, we really need you. Before it was like Black people kind of were like acting all victimized. Oh, well, that my vote ain't gonna count. You see, it really does count. If it really didn't count, they wouldn't try so hard to keep you from getting to the polls. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's just what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just call it what it is. And his Kemp's reasoning behind this whole legislation was, we want to make sure that it's fair. The voting system is fair for all. Are you serious? After we counted votes like 3 times,
Yeah.
and Secretary of State guaranteed that there was nothing wrong with the votes that were turning. Everything was legit. So what's your point? what is your reasoning for really signing that? It wasn't that.
It's because
We all know what it is.
What his reasoning is. I'm saying.
You just want to come up with some other stupid, idiotic reason to keep people from voting. And guess what? Now it's just only going to make us do it more. Now you're going to see more Black people.
I hope it does.
It's over for them. I'm going to tell you right now, because now Black people have woken up and they're like, oh no, we can't let this happen. Now we see why it's so important, why it's so vitally important for us to be educated about the voting process, to really pay attention to what's going on, to these people they're putting in office, and to get out there and do something about it, and not just sit around and say, oh, well, we don't count anyway. Yes, we actually do.
The Black vote has been instrumental in helping our nation to gain. It's so funny to me. It's not funny, but it's ironic, T, that the people who have been so oppressed and so absolutely treated unfairly in this nation are the ones that are keeping our democracy alive. And white folks too. But
America.
Stepping up to the plate. They're stepping up to the plate. And I know, of all the people who could just not believe in this country anymore, yet they're stepping up to the plate when they have every reason to just say, this is insane. The system's too big. They just don't give a shit. And I'm blown away. Isn't Kemp the one that kind of, I get my politics all mixed up now. It's so crazy.
Yes, he cheated his way to governor.
Against Abrams?
Yeah.
Like my God, he's the poster boy for corruption.
Yes.
And he has the gall to show his face with his plantation picture right behind it. Do you think he doesn't know that's a plantation he has in the back of his office? I would bet pretty much my life he has absolutely extreme knowledge of this fact. The man is a white supremacist, and he's getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would love to just, go down to Georgia and help people who are having trouble voting to do it, because I cannot stand this kind of injustice.
Right.
This is like in the olden days when they would threaten you and kill you if you tried to vote. They would make you take a test. They would make you they would put you through this, that, and the other. They would intimidate you. They're closing.
No, I knew this was coming. I said, they're going to do something sneaky. I just knew it. I could just feel it, because there's just no way. I just knew it was coming. So I'm not surprised, that he did that. That's his character. That is definitely his character. But that's, most Republicans, not all, but if you're still a Republican right now, shame on you. Right now is not the time to say I'm going to be a Republican.
Oh, I know some Republicans who aren't Republicans anymore.
Right. It's like it's not really. You need to just leave the party. You don't have to stay gone forever, but for right now, this that's not the party you need to be affiliated with. If you're saying that you love all people and you want to, you believe in justice for all, that's not the party to be a part of. And they're being so exposed. I mean, and I know I'm going off a little bit, but how is Mitch McConnell? He sat up there or stood up there and said all these things against former president, about how he was so wrong and he's the one who created this mess with the insurrection, and then turns around and votes to acquit him. I mean, that should speak volumes in and of itself.
Yeah.
I know I'm saying the same thing that everybody else says, but it's just constantly ringing in my mind.
Yeah, talk's cheap. I think we all know that. That's a very, very, low level lesson for like our children, maybe. Talk's cheap. I want to know what you've done lately. And that's what matters. And I want to know what your behavior has been over time. And even then, white folks probably won't be trusted, but I'll tell you right now, they sure as hell aren't being trusted now because we've earned it. People, we've earned it. And what I mean by that, not you personally, as a collective, we have earned Black, brown, and indigenous people, people of mixed heritage, African American people, non-white, shouldn't trust us. We've shown them they shouldn't trust us. Just look at Georgia. How many weeks, I say this every time, how many days, how many minutes, how many seconds, how many days, weeks, months, years, centuries do Black folks need to wait, not to get more than what everyone else has, just to have equity in a country that boasts liberty and justice for all? I'm sorry, you can say I hate white people. It's not true. I just expect a little more from us. This can't be our best. This just can't be our best. This is the lies. My God, the lies. So, do you want to say anything more, or should I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay, jump right in whenever. Let me see. I get triggered by this stuff. I really do. I really. What's that?
I said I do too.
Yeah, it's probably triggering to anyone who loves their fellow humans and also knows that this is not the way life's supposed to be. And, you know, I always say it's not the extremes on either side. It's the people, the white folks right in the middle who do not know our own racial history. We do not know what sundown towns are. We do not know what redlining is and how absolutely redlining in every way, shape, and form created poverty, forced so that Black Americans would struggle terribly harder than white Americans in general to have generational wealth, which we live in a system that is supposed to be a democratic republic, but really it's capitalism on steroids, unchecked, which makes it all the more important that people be able to accumulate wealth. It was never meant to be a lifestyle, but that's what it is. And I mean, I'm kind of going all over the place here, but we gotta pull it back in, rein it in. We're allowing the white wealthy elites to take over into an oligarchy, which almost was this close to a dictatorship. And I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I don't think that personally, just, you know, I'm not an expert. Don't listen to me, listen to someone who knows more. But I truly don't think we've saved our democracy. Let's put it that way. We've been going down for a long time. And the fact that Trump is still running the GOP and he's not in office speaks volumes.
You know, he is the spokesperson. I mean, he's been coming out saying his idiotic, stupid things again. They're on there believing it. You know, he just came out talking about, I was just like flabbergasted. I'm telling you, he said the insurrection, what did he say? Zero, basically that they were not threatening the, I can't remember the exact, anybody who's on here knows what I'm talking about. But he went on there saying that they were not guilty of anything, basically. He went on, I just saw it on
they followed their white supremacist.
Like, it was like, but basically saying that I was just like, what are you talking? Like, I mean, I know he's a Looney Tune, he really is. But then in the same, you know, breath, what really, really hurt me is the case with the Central Park Five and how he went out there and said all those nasty things when the boys weren't even guilty.
Nope.
Their lives were ruined because of this.
Destroyed forever. He made he put out 4 massive ads in the major newspapers trying to get the death
penalty back. Out of his way. Went out of his way.
He knew nothing of the case. Man, any more than anyone else.
and they were kids.
They were children. They didn't do it.
You
No.
had the gall to do that.
Yep.
Then you want to get on national TV after some white supremacists with nooses and everything, go up, storm the Capitol with the intent to kill, and have the gall to say that they were zero responsibility or something to that effect. I can't remember the exact
He's
words.
real good at saying, he's real good at saying he has zero responsibility for things.
I know, but that is just like, but the problem is you got people out there believing it.
Well, that's, yeah. And you know what? It's because we white folks, most of us want to believe it. T, did you know that after they were boys then, now they're, young men, they were finally, basically found absolutely innocent of everything. The Central Park Five, they don't even like to be referred to as the Central Park Five, but I'm not sure what,
Yeah, they're called, I forget what they call them now. It's something different now.
That Trump had the gall, the audacity to say they admitted it, they did it. I mean, the man is a monster, okay? But we elected him. We, the people, the white folks, elected him. It's not the people who are burning crosses. It's not the people who are fighting because they know what it means to act human. It's all the white folks right smack in the middle who just, go about their lives thinking that they're neutral because, they don't really know a lot about this. It doesn't really bother them anymore. They don't have any close friends that are Black, brown, indigenous. Doesn't impact them. Guess what? It absolutely does. They are not on the right side of history. Doing nothing puts you as an oppressor. They are upholding. Oh my gosh. No way. Yay. Thank you. A friend of mine's here. Welcome. We're doing a book club. No way. I'm thrilled. Yay. Thanks for being here. We're just blabbing away as usual. But how exciting. T, he actually had the gall to go in front of a camera after the men were found. The DNA was not theirs, okay? Because they didn't do it. And he went on camera and said they did it anyway. Who does this man think he is? Rhetorical question only. Thank you.
And here we are. How many was it? Maybe 20 something years later, however many. I don't remember when exactly, maybe longer than 20 years later. We elect him as president.
We elect this monster as president. And, anybody, that's why I say, if you support him, I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways. If you're a white person and you supported him or still support him, yes, you actually are a classic, hardcore, overt racist. You can't have it both ways. You can't support somebody politically who is in power, to give them power, who's absolutely an overt Klan racist. He's the de facto modern leader of the Ku Klux Klan for the world in America. I mean, you might not be burning crosses in your front yard or wearing sheets with holes in them, but you knew exactly who he was and how racist he was, and it wasn't a deal breaker for you. Take responsibility. White America, we did this, and it's disgusting. These are our fellow humans, and it's disgusting. And the saddest part is it's not good for us either. We're too stupid to know it, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Anyway, I'm on a rampage. I better keep going. We're supposed to end this. So the next thing in the book, the white supremacy. She talks about white supremacy in the end of chapter 2. Thinking of white supremacy as alt-right or like white nationalists makes it so the average white person says, well, that's not me. I don't do that. So pretty much it's like a person who's white saying, I'm not racist. The minute you say that, I'm not racist. Well, here's the problem. Being so defensive like that, well, I guess if you're not racist, you have no work to do. You don't have to do introspection. You don't have to define racism and find out what your possible role could be in upholding it and benefiting from it. You're not racist. Move on. What a cop-out. This allows the white masses to look at white racism as this individual or maybe, small group. But white supremacy is an overarching political, economic, and social system of domination. It's a structure, not an event or a march. Welcome, I Am Legend. We're just blabbing about the book some more. Thanks for being here. White supremacy, it's an overarching political, economic, social system of domination. It's not about us individually. White folks, look at yourself. Are you white? If it is, it's not about us, okay? It's about what we've done. It's not about how we feel, okay? We feel guilty, we feel this. Move on. It encourages white people to believe that it's about how we feel and act, okay? And it's not. It's about a powerful system that's much bigger than all of us. Mills notes that although white civilization has shaped Western political thought for hundreds of years, it's never in name. Let me explain. In this way, white supremacy is rendered invisible, while other political systems like socialism, capitalism, fascism are identified and studied. We are very, we'll do that in school and universities. Everybody, knows about this. But does everybody know about white supremacy? Hell no. White folks are so incredibly uneducated, whether it's willful or whether they thought their school was actually teaching them our real racial history instead of whitewashed or completely, excluded things that they never learned. If you don't know about sundown towns and redlining and the Devil's Punch Bowl and the 13th Amendment, the true 13th Amendment, if you don't know about all these things, black codes, Jim Crow, in depth, then you don't know our real racial history. You don't know your real racial history. So if you don't know your racial history, your opinion about what's going on today in America with the social issues we have, I'm sorry, your opinion's worthless, okay? Because you don't get it. This is not new. This has been going on since the beginning of our nation. You have to understand your own racial history. As white folks, we have to, or our opinion means nothing. It's just another person blabbing away about something they don't know about. And that's kind of how it is. And we do not like to talk about this. White supremacy's power, according to the book, is drawn from its invisibility. It's taken for granted aspect that underwrites all other political and social contracts. It's always with us, no matter which one you've studied, socialism, capitalism, fascism, you name it, okay? The next section, jump in anytime. I'm just gonna scoot through this because it's getting late. And let me see here. This is the white racial framework. One of the most potent ways white supremacy is disseminated is through the media. And most folks really do know this. It's media representation. It shapes how we view the world. It's huge. And I want to focus on that for a minute. And that's part of the end of chapter 2. Those who write and direct films are cultural narrators. The stories they tell shape our world view. Everybody's. They really do. Given that the majority of white people live in racial isolation from Black folks and other people of color, white people have very few authentic cross-racial relationships. So white people are deeply influenced by the racial messages in film, in media, and they have been historically atrocious, filled with propaganda and lies that make Black people look like criminals, look lazy. How could don't even go there. I can't even get, we are highly influenced. Most of us do not have a single 75 or more % of white folks in America, adults today, do not have a single close friend who's not just like them. So how in the hell would we know about racism? accept what we learn in the media. Yes, it's improving, but not fast enough, and definitely not enough. I mean, consider the statistic of the 100 top grossing money-wise films in the world in 2016. Let me see, it was 98 or 95% of them were white men. So we had, of all the films representing people in the entire world, white men who, we don't know what they know about it, but generally they are the people who, and white women, do not get me wrong, I'm not bagging on white men. Women are absolutely just as responsible. Yeah, exactly. So that's absolutely. We have these people structuring our world and our culture for us, and teaching us about what Black people are and who they are and what they are.
Yeah,
what brown people are.
that pisses me off because you don't know me, and who do you think you are, creating this false narrative about me, and then that creates a whole problem with the rest of society and
Yep.
how they look at me, and it's not fair. I had a thought with that. Just it's very few positive film and TV programs that represent Black people in a good light, that show us as decent human beings just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
you know and it just really is hurtful when the narrative is always that Black people are this way and that way, when it's just not true. It's just like any other culture. You have good, bad, poor, rich, everything in all cultures and all races. So why does it have to be that the Black people are the ones that are this, and that, and the other? I don't. It's not fair.
It's
So that is.
perpetuated
It's
by,
like,
by
I hate that. It's so wrong, and it's just so hurtful, because that means that just like I was telling you last week, a conversation I had, and this just ignorant ass white guy goes on here talking about just the stuff he was saying, like, and I was just like, what? I don't live like that. Oh, you see shootings and you
Oh
see
yeah,
that.
used to that
Oh,
stuff.
what
Yeah,
the
you're
hell?
used to that. We're not used to
Used
that.
to what? I'm not. You think I'm used to it because I'm Black? Like, wow, that is the image that you're getting of somebody that looks like me. That's crazy. You know, I mean, it's just. I was like, what? But it's just appalling to me. But I understand why they're doing it, like you said, capitalism. And not that of course, I don't agree. Of course not.
There's
But I see
money.
it. It's just. But that was dead on, that part in the book.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, a lot of white folks believe that it's all kind of like just chance. But Christian Piccolini is a former white nationalist. He explains it really well in the book. That white nationalists recognized that they had to distance themselves from the term racism and white supremacy. They know what they're doing. These people aren't developmentally disabled. They might be morally disabled, but they know what they're doing. He says he goes on to say that we recognized way back when that we're turning away the average white American person who's racist, and that we need to look and speak more like our neighbors do. The idea was to blend in as a racist, normalize it, make the message more palatable, because we're turning away people who would be great racists. And I don't know if you know about Lee Atwater. I just saw a documentary on him a couple weeks back. It was very eye-opening. In 1981, Lee Atwater, a Republican political strategist and advisor to Ronald Reagan and George Bush explained what's now known as the Southern strategy. And yes, it's pretty much what you think. How to appeal to white Southern voters without pronouncing it openly. Like, we're racist as fuck, and that's our agenda. Okay? They don't say it like that anymore. This guy was good in an evil way. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing.
He said that you started out in 1954, and I'm summarizing his words, but this was at one time a quote. He started out using the N-word in 1954, and by 1968, you can't say that word anymore because that'll actually, work against you. But you can say things like forced busing, states' rights. You talk about cutting taxes. You talk about economic things, and the byproducts of them will hurt Black folks much more than other groups. And so you kind of work around it. You got to stay abstract so that it's not so obvious, but it accomplishes the same white supremacist agenda. And, at the end of his life, he admitted all this stuff. This is not chance, folks. This is purposeful. Like the Lyndon. Yeah, go ahead.
It just came to me. It's like, yeah, we got to keep them in their place. That's what this is about. What they consider our place. So.
Absolutely. The end of the chapter asks white folks, the end of chapter 2 asks white folks to think about some questions. How do you, and I'll just, put them out there. How do you feel when you hear the word white? Do you think that's not me? Is it an insult? Are you defensive right away? Are you, what do you think? Have you ever said the word Black to refer to someone? Have you ever used that word naturally? Or would you not ever do that because inside, you're not really supposed to say that as a white person, and it means bad. And do you think of it subconsciously as bad to the point where you would never say that? Oh, there's a Black person walking by. Why is that inherently bad to say? Unless you think Black people are bad. And, we got to do some serious introspection, people. We started this. We created this. I don't think it's asking the world. If you're white, have you ever said to somebody, oh, that's a bad neighborhood? What are you really trying to say? Have you ever heard someone say something like, oh, they have some really bad schools in this area? What are they really saying? Think about when you were younger. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying exactly.
Think about when you were younger. Did you sit in the cafeteria with people who looked like you? Were there anybody in your cafeteria were there people who didn't look like you? If so, did they sit with you or not? Your classes in school, if you were in honors classes, do you remember? Was there a mix of people in your honors classes, or was it all white folks like you? When did you first have a teacher of your own race? Have you ever had a teacher that wasn't your own race? I personally, I'm rather old, and this is way back in, goodness gracious, second grade. My second grade teacher, Mr. Butler, was a 6'3" Black man. Extremely rare. Elementary school. A man. A dark-skinned Black man. Of course, it was neither here or there to me. I didn't know what that was. He was just a teacher to me because I was raised in the era of colorblindness. And when I was 6, I don't know, 6, 7, I didn't know any. So it was nothing. He was just my teacher. But that's really rare. Extremely rare. First of all, to be a male teacher and to be a Black male teacher for little children. I didn't know it was rare. I was a little kid. Today in America, the vast majority of white folks, 75% of us adults don't have a single close friend who's not white, just like us. White folks can often go their entire lives without questioning why. Why don't we have friends that don't look like us? Why? Seriously, why? And we never question this our entire lives. We can live and die an entire lifespan as white people, never understanding white supremacy, the culture we live in and perpetuate by willful ignorance or by just being out of it or whatever. It doesn't matter. We can live and die never knowing what we're involved in. But we do know one thing about race, and that is that we are not supposed to talk about it openly. And that is why I do what I do. White folks, we have to start taking racial responsibility for a system that white people created, white people perpetuate, white people benefit from. Okay? Maybe not you. It's time to step to the plate and act like a human being. We don't need credit for it. We don't need accolades. It's called being human. And I truly believe we are up for the task. That is kind of a summary of chapter 2. Is so intense. T, do you want to jump in and say anything? Because I've just been blabbing and blabbing away. What do you think of all this introspection for white? Do you think it'll help us? Will we do it?
Well, I don't know. It just depends on how open a person is. But I mean, if I could break it all the way down to preschool level, I mean, just think about it in the sense of, if you were just shown a picture of, a black person and a white person, and you automatically just are drawn to picking the white person as better, something's wrong.
Racial experiment. Yep.
And you automatically see the black person as bad or a negative thing, or associate them with something negative, something's wrong. That's where we need to start. Like, we should be on an equal playing field here, and we're not. So that's
Yep.
the problem. Being taught, whether overtly or in an unspoken way, that black people are this way and that way, and white people are better. Being taught that is not human. It's not normal.
That's what society teaches us.
And
it's not be your parents or your school. It's society.
Society tries to normalize something that is real. It doesn't even make sense to do. It's just
little kids don't do that. Little babies, unless they're taught. Little 2, 3, 4-year-olds.
Right. Little babies, they fall in love with you. They don't care what skin color. Who cares? Like,
they just want to play.
What does that have to do with anything? Yeah.
Society gets us.
It is. I don't know, honestly, because people are so far gone and so indoctrinated that I just don't know how many Kims are going to be out there,
Very sweet. Yeah.
Doing this. It's very rare. You're like a rare gem, because most white people would not be this humble and listen this much and actually fight for people of color the way you do.
Well, you're very sweet, but I don't deserve credit for acting like a human being, but I appreciate it. But
I understand that, but it's that, and it's I see what you're saying, but even you saying that, I know that's correct, but because the way our society is,
I don't do it.
It's like, it doesn't sound normal. It should be normal, but it doesn't.
Be normal, right.
Even as a black person, I'm like, no, I want to say thank you, but you're right. No, that's human. What,
right, because it's so abnormal. We're so indoctrinated. It's
right. So I go through in my mind, some days I'm like, oh, maybe if we try this strategy, or maybe if we try going in this angle. And then other times I'm like, oh, this is worthless. It's hopeless. They're going to still continue to think the way they're going to think. Nothing's going to change. I don't know. I honestly, it's something major has to happen. But then I don't know, because the insurrection happened and it still didn't change anything. And that scares me, because if that still didn't wake people up, I don't know what will. I don't know.
Yeah, the insurrection didn't wake people up, and nothing will. It's really sociologically standing out, looking in. It's like a huge PhD project. But as people that are actually living here, this is some scary, scary times. And we've said that throughout history, of course, but we're in the twilight of our democracy. And I might be really naive and not have studied history well enough, and I probably haven't, but I didn't think it'd be in my lifetime. I didn't. I thought, what did I know? It's in my lifetime. We came very close, and we still might be seeing the end of what we've called a democratic republic. We certainly have an oligarchy going on. How do I know this, you ask? It's all about economics, but racism plays a huge pivotal role in keeping the white people from realizing that we share the same plight. Like Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow book says, the number one fear of the white elites is that one day white America will wake the hell up and realize we share the same plight. We're being used. We're being used to look down upon people so we feel cool, when the people we should be pissed at are the wealthiest elites who are getting richer and basically laughing in our faces. We're doing their dirty work for free. And it's dirty work. It's disgusting. So I don't know. But let me see here. If there's a couple of comments. Yeah, I guess we can wrap it up. I get the feeling we'll have two more panelists with you. You will not be all by yourself, although you did amazing. I hope I didn't talk over you too much. The problem is, because you're not on like with a picture, I can't tell when you're about to talk. So I just like, so I hope I didn't like.
No, you're fine.
Drowned you out, basically. Very hard to tell, but I'm thrilled you got your picture up. That was T, my sweet friend, who I absolutely adore, giving you her take as an American person who happens to be Black in America, and is by default an expert in with wisdom, and also an incredibly nice person. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And also people watching, thank you so much for being here. Whether you're a person who is very, very well-versed in all this and live it and can help teach, or if you're somebody who's learning about it and listening, thanks for caring, either way. And guess the next time I'll be on, well, of course, my last video, I just want to do a couple. If you're new to being here, please consider subscribing to my channel. It's kind of a tough spot. I'm not feeling sorry for myself, but white folks hate my guts because I talk about a subject they can't stand, and Black folks don't trust me, which I don't blame them one bit. If they get to know me, they maybe would, or maybe not. Because you know what? The only way white folks can truly be trusted is by watching their behavior, our behavior, over time. And even then, we may never be trusted. We've earned it. But I thank you so much for any support you can give to my channel. I want my videos to get up in the algorithm, so actual people who need to see them will see them. I'm not so great at that. So the more you watch, the more you spread to your friends, the better, like they move them up. And thanks for being here. And don't be a stranger. I'll see you Wednesday live show, 9:00 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Sweet dreams. Thanks, T.
You're welcome.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Great job, everybody. Thanks for all the nice comments. And